Good afternoon. This is Travis Marker. I'm with Steward Growth, and I have America Francis on the phone with me. Today, we're doing strategic manifestation. This is part of our monthly workshops. They are recorded. They are stored at on YouTube at Steward Growth /NP3 2023. Or if you just go to YouTube, you can type in Steward Growth, it will show up. We also have an Instagram page and Facebook pages, so you can connect with us. Today, as we're talking about strategic manifestation, have been exploring the idea of staying focused on the thing that you're trying to achieve, or staying focused in general, and ways that we can stay focused. I think this is a pretty critical conversation to have, and so America and I are going to explore that. America had the idea on it, so I'll let her start the discussion.
Sure. So I was talking about how sometimes it gets easy to be distracted by the things that are going on in our lives, and we can be observing things that are happening and just looking at whatever's around us. And if we want things to be different, we need to focus on imagining or considering how things could be alternatively instead of just observing what's going on. And we can manifest the things that we want to happen by focusing as if they were already happening, appreciating the good things in our life that haven't shown up, but believing that they're in the process of making their way to us.
Yeah, I think as I think about your topic, I think it's really important because what I recognize, even in my own life, is, or particularly as I've been mentoring people or connecting with people on this topic, that um, some people anticipate that busy is the same thing as focused. So you see lots of people who they're busy around their goal. So like they're not trying to be lazy, or they're not trying to be they're not trying to waste their time, but they're not necessarily focusing on what parts of their vision are actually bringing them focused in on the thing that they're trying to achieve. So sometimes they're like, well, if like, let's say I'm going to do a farm, sometimes before they buy the land or buy anything specifically, maybe they're just preparing to buy the farm, and they keep preparing to buy the farm, and they keep preparing, but they're not actually moving towards buying the farm. Or maybe they like to plan the idea of maybe starting a hair salon or a taco truck, or but they don't actually focus on moving towards actually getting the taco truck, so the focus is it
They
is
get
not.
a location, they get business cards, but they don't get customers and clients.
Right, they don't hand out the business cards, they don't like promote the business cards, they don't yeah, so they're not it's like they're busy around the goal, but they're not actually focused on achieving the goal.
Sometimes it can be really difficult to identify the steps that are really effective, and that's one reason coaching can be really helpful, because someone who's done it before can help you prioritize and identify which steps are busy and which steps are effective.
Yeah. um I know that there's a scripture in the Doctrine and Covenants, which is from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I think is interesting, and it talks about being anxiously engaged. And I've been thinking about that scripture lately, because I think what's interesting about that belief system is you often will see people anxiously engaged, but they're not necessarily anxiously engaged with a vision towards achieving a purpose, right? They're just anxiously engaged, but they're not
Yeah,
necessarily saying, I need this thing to become like manifest. I noticed that in my life, because before I read Think and Grow Rich, which was like probably one of the most important books I've read about really changing my paradigm. I know that some people will say like reading the Bible or reading something like that is most important. And I'm not challenging that some of those books are, very important. But I think when you realize a book that is just like, it totally like revolutionizes the way you see something, you know, like it just, you're just like, oh, I have been tremendously incorrect. Like just like where I just did not understand that I was so incorrect in what I was thinking. And I was distracted in the idea that being anxiously engaged in a good cause would bring about my thing, where you have to be anxiously engaged. I have faith towards achieving that good thing, not just not just you can't just be busy. I guess that's the primary thing, right?
Actually, yeah, that's right. It has to be on the path to the destination you want to go to.
Yeah. So how do you think you move in your life from private like just your private thoughts and busyness to like I'm like you're zeroed in, like you're focused on the thing that's going to happen.
Um, Sometimes it helps to have a coach or a mentor.
I think I lost some
What
of
does
that.
help? Oh, am I not?
It was just kind of coming in and out.
Just give me a second. I'll get on my laptop. Why don't you share some thoughts while I'm plugging in?
Okay. Well, I think that what I noticed is like before I read Think and Grow Rich, um, I was like, I would like to be profitable, So I'm out working in the community, and I think I'm working hard. Like I'm trying to achieve, things that are interesting, things that are valuable, things that are good. Um, but I wasn't specifically trying to achieve, like I wasn't asking people for any money. I was anticipating that if I worked really hard, then somebody would bless me with money. Like I don't know how it would show up, but like the idea was is if I worked really hard and I was always busy, then people would see that me working really hard and being always busy would equate to them saying, "Oh, and we should make you a millionaire," I guess. And I think it was really difficult to realize that isn't achieving your goal. Like that is not being busy does not in fact help you do anything if it's not directed towards a purpose. So when I said, when I read Think and Grow Rich, and all of a sudden I was like dialed in, everything became very different because now it was, I want to achieve a definite purpose, and I am actually going to achieve this definite purpose, which had to orientate towards, in my case, providing for my family, providing for my law office, actually asking clients for money. It wasn't like I didn't make money, but it was totally different once I was um, dialed into the goal of manifesting money into my life. Because it's interesting with strategic manifestation and manifesting. You can't you can't manifest something um, that you're not thinking about. Like you can't. It's not going to arbitrarily just happen, right? So you have to be thinking to yourself, I'm going to achieve this specific purpose, and this is what's going to happen. Well, and what was interesting is once I read Think and Grow Rich, I was able to understand that I had been doing it in other areas of my life that did not relate to money. So I was, for example, manifesting like things that I was like goals. Like, so if I said I want to see this event happen, I was able to like be pretty proactive about manifesting the right conversations, manifesting the right attitude, manifesting the right um like connectivity with people, like the collaboration. I was able to manifest things. Like if I said I want to get this thing done at the church, or I want to get this thing done at business, it just seemed like as long as it didn't relate to money, for some reason I was able to manifest it. And people would be pretty impressed. They would be like, wow, that was amazing. They got that done. And And I was thinking, well, I wonder why everybody can't do this. But as soon as I realized I had a blocker in regards specifically to money, then it dramatically changed the way I directly manifested specifically resources such as money for my family, for whatever it might be. Because I was able to change the way I perceived the goal. So then, so once I realized I had a blocker towards money, I did have to go through some, I would say, therapeutic steps in regards to making money a friend. So I mean that does seem kind of weird that you would have to say, hey, how do I make money a friend?
No,
Um,
I think a lot of people have issues with manifestation and abundance and scarcity and money. Money is a big topic that some people have difficulty manifesting.
yeah, and I guess that was what I had to focus on overcoming was what am I specifically hoping is supposed to just kind of passively manifest into my world if I'm actually kind of repelling money, like if I have some kind of belief that money is not actually good, how is this going to happen? Like what could possibly happen that will make money good if I don't actually think it's good and if I'm kind of repelling it with my thoughts?
So actually, something I've been listening to with that whole Abraham Hicks things, it says that you get to choose your beliefs. So you're attracting according to your beliefs, and the things that you believe are the things that you think repetitively. So if you want to believe something, just keep thinking something and it will become a belief. And if you have a belief and it's not a constructive belief, you can change your beliefs by thinking differently.
Correct. I mean, and I agree with that, but it's not, I think some of it is thinking differently, but there's also an element of you have to realize how do you feel about that thing?
Oh yeah, feeling for sure. Let's talk about feeling too. Yes.
yeah.
Feeling it.
So I would meditate with mantras. So for example, like I would find a mantra that I would breathe in. I would breathe in the thing of the mantra I wanted to receive. So something like I receive into my life, and then I would exhale. That's the word, I guess, right? You inhale and you exhale.
Yeah, I did something similar to that too. It was helpful.
Yeah, so I would exhale from me uh
The thing you wanted to go out of your life.
correct. So I would say I receive into my life the resources I need, or I receive abundantly that I might bless others. So I would push from my life that I might bless others.
Yeah, you're doing great.
So
I
it was
appreciate that about you.
say I lost you a little bit. Say your part, what'd you say?
Oh, I said you're doing that and I appreciate that about you.
Yeah. Yeah. So but being able to say to myself, um, because I recognize that just receiving money to myself did not it didn't work for me. Like I wasn't excited about that. Like I don't really want money just for me. And it's not that I uh I don't think it's a problem of me hesitating to like bless myself or something. I guess it was the idea that I just recognized I don't inherently just need money. Like I really just like it's not something I want to just be sitting in piles of gold like Smog on like, The Hobbit or something. Like I don't personally thrive on just having the abundance of money surrounding me. I want the money because it represents a resource to the people that I want to bless. Like, because that's what my validation language is I can facilitate people receiving money. I can go down to the local bakeries and buy more of their stuff. I can, like I can help the economy, I can help the market, I can help just people be proactive. But the idea that I'm like, well, yeah, and I just want to like have lots and lots of money just in my account, like it's like, well, what is that for? Like what does that do for me?
Mhm.
So I think when you come back to focus, I realize because I have mantras on my phone that I have on a sheet, and I don't read them every day, but I have them because I just like to know that I have them, and then when I visit them again, I'll go through them and make sure I'm kind of living in consistent with the mantras. But I'll often refine them every time I read them to be something even more specific to what I'm actually like in alignment with.
Yeah. I do that too.
Yeah. So like for example, let me pull it up.
I think
So
one thing that's important that you mentioned is the meaning, because there's the possession of money, but the action of what you can do with it is what represents the growth and the good, and that that's the meaning part of it.
yeah, I'm trying to find one that would be kind of unique to this.
Do you have categories?
Yeah, but they're not specifically categories, but yeah. But here's the one I have about abundance. The world is abundant. My needs are met. I am generous. I donate freely. I provide for my family, employees, partners, and obligations. I can afford it. I expect good things. And oftentimes, like the one part of that that's probably the most predominant is I can afford it. And that has been my that has probably been my most exercise of faith type mantra because I recognize that when I before I read Think and Grow Rich, I lived in scarcity. And
Mhm.
so the idea was I just didn't know how I could afford things. I didn't know how I could pay for things. I didn't know how I could yeah, just like make life work. And so when I read Deepak Chopra's The A to Z of Creating Affluence, one of those is the world's is abundance and you should be carefree and generous. And by by participating in the flow, then you receive more of the flow. So when I recognize I need more money, and even Robert Kiyosaki in his Rich Dad Poor Dad, he talks about tithing. I think tithing can be, specific to a charitable organization or to a church or whatever. But sometimes for me, tithing is just the idea of participate, like give your money away in a like not not absolutely carefree, just give it away, but the idea that you have to have the courage and to participate so that you're not in a scarcity mindset where you're hoarding the thing. Like you have to be able to free yourself from the thing by giving it away.
Yeah, the life will provide what you need.
Yeah. So yeah, so like when I go to Zippori's Italian bakery and I realize that there's a gigantic basket there, I don't look at how much it costs. I just say I can afford that basket because I would like to give that basket to somebody. And then I just go from there. Because I realize in my mantras, it's like I can afford it. I will be able to overcome that because I would like somebody to enjoy this basket. So you just go with it. And if
So
somebody
once
asks,
you live like that, then the universe draws in the resources you need to afford it.
exactly. Yeah. So I don't, yeah, I never have to, it's just tremendously weird that I'd never worry about having enough money. Like even as I've had some pretty rough months, it just has never occurred to me I wouldn't have enough money. It doesn't mean that things are not still hard though, right? It doesn't mean that you don't suffer or you get tired or you get fatigued or you get stressed or you get wore out or you lose focus. Um, but since I've overcome that scarcity mindset, it's I just don't worry about the idea that I would not make money. So it just continues to
It's the
happen.
faith and it's the belief. And if you act that way, that principle of action and expecting those good things and believing that they're happening, it's all a formula that works for anyone.
Correct. Well, and even coming back to your focus, if you actually focus too hard on it, that becomes an obstacle. That becomes a blocker. So you have to engage in you have to create this exercises for yourself that allow you to be aware of your goal so that you are focused on your goal, but you are not negatively energy focusing on your goal. There's no tension, there's no tightness, there's no like there's no anxiety about achieving your goal.
Impatience.
Yeah, there's
Mhm.
no impatience. You're
There's
able to,
no requiring that it happens in a certain way.
right. So because I know that, like, I think it was Tony Robbins, some other people, they'll say they wrote a check to themselves for 4 years out for $1 million, and it happened. I have not been able to engage in that form of manifestation yet. Like, I don't quite get that part. Um, because I think I do like to have a little bit more control over my manifesting. Like, I think my personal, put the hoe and the plow and the seed and everything into work. So, but what I do is I kind of like, I put it in my head and I just kind of listen for things. So I might not even pay attention to it for a while, but I'm not unaware of it either. I just don't necessarily focus on it. And then as soon as I'm talking to somebody, they may generate a conversation around that thing again. And I'm like, oh, well, what about this? So it's just interesting how sometimes, even though you have the goal, but you're kind of incubating the goal, but you're still aware of opportunities that it might line up. Like, it might show up just because you're paying attention to it, even though you're not focusing specifically on it.
You have a collection of little ideas that are babies, and you can help them move along as they start showing some kind of promise, depending on your other priorities.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking now, isn't there some like of those exercises that you see things sometimes better in your peripheral vision than you see looking at them directly?
Uh-huh. Well,
And,
it
and I,
might make it easier to let it go a little bit if it's not right there in front of you, because sometimes we do get really attached to, I want this so much, and then you start focusing on not having the thing instead of the fact that it's coming, and then you start feeling sad about not having it come right now, and then you're farther off than you ever were.
right. Yeah, sometimes I also will kind of watch the feeling about the thing. So like sometimes, like, I have said this before, but I like chocolate Zapola. But it was interesting that there's sometimes that, even though I know I like it, there's some days I don't want it. Like, I don't like it. It has to kind of align or it will not taste good. Like, like if the timing's not right for something to manifest or for something to happen, um, it could be just that you are not in alignment with that thing happening for whatever reason. Like, if it happened that day, it actually might not be a blessing. It actually might be awkward because
It's
it's
like
not.
Groundhog Day. He
Yeah,
keeps doing the same things, and some days it works really nicely, and some days it's a hot mess. And he's like, this is what I did yesterday and it worked, and today it's not.
yeah. Just like, oh, the chemistry has to align, the feelings have to align, the absence of anxiousness, the absence of stress, the sometimes just, yeah, the biochemistry of your body's just like, yeah, I just don't want chocolate today. I'd rather have, salt on a hard-boiled egg or something. Today I had pesto and tomatoes with mozzarella cheese. So that's a caprese salad. That's what I had today. I didn't have a Zippola today.
I want to see your food blog.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
I mean, you have all these preferences about appearance. It'd be fun to see some photos of the things that you're creating.
Yeah. You know, I think, like, in all seriousness, I think that if I could give somebody the day that I read Think and Grow Rich and that phrase, you're the direct result of the dominating thoughts in your mind, hit me over the head. Like, I can't think of something that was more impactful than when a paradigm finally aligns and you finally get it. That you think just because you're doing the rain dance, it's going to produce rain. Like, and you keep doing the rain dance and doing the rain dance and doing the rain dance and doing the rain dance. And you're like, I'm sure it will produce rain, right? like, there's a mystery there because you keep doing it thinking something different will happen, where you have to change the paradigm, you have to change the information, you have to change your inspiration. And what was really sad is because I'm giving God the pity party, right? I'm like, I guess God doesn't want to bless me. I guess God doesn't want to do this. And and so I picked that book up, and it's almost like God says, just stop. You're the problem. I'm not the problem. Like, I've been working with you the whole time, and you're the problem because you don't want to make money. Like, you don't want to really make money. You want to make enough money that you can like cover your basic expenses, but you don't really want to make money. And I'm not kidding. As soon as I realized that, I have never, um, I've always made more money since that year. Like every single year.
Sometimes it's just a little piece that you're missing, and you're not attracting it because you're not the frequency isn't right. You've got to line up with whatever that piece is. And how can you make that more likely for you to connect those dots? What do you think?
Well, I think I had to be open, right? I mean, I literally had to be open to a new paradigm. I had to be open to learn, which was the books, right? I had to be looking for the books that would help me with my problem. But I can't be looking for confirmation bias, right? You can't be looking for something that's going to tell you what you already know. You can't be looking for something that is going to make you feel good about yourself. Like, if you're
Don't just
reading,
read the books about the things you already know.
yeah, or that you already feel good about, or that you're already happy about, or that you're already like, yeah, this feels really good because I'm confirming that my life is amazing. But if you look around and your life isn't amazing, then you're reading the wrong books. Like, you have to be able to get the education or the mentors or the people involved who are going to say, I appreciate that you've been running that way for 20 years. Like, you have to run differently if you want to see progress. You've been breathing wrong for like 50 years. Like, you have to breathe differently if you want to have effective breathing. Like, you've been eating incorrectly for so long. I don't
And
care
then you
what.
have to change these automatic habits.
Yeah, because but you have to also be able to embrace your coach didn't tell you the correct thing, or the science has evolved, or the algorithms are more effective, or the advertising is not the same, or the public service is different, or the like if you're not innovating, you're dying. Like, and so and that's ultimately the idea of revelation, or of, like, the Dead Sea is dead because it is not receiving any water, right? And it also has no outlets. So if your life is in a stagnant position where you can't focus, or you're focusing way too hard, like you're pounding that nail over and over and over and over and over again, like, you have to say, I need to be open to, like, maybe putting the sock on the different foot today. Like, I'm going to not follow my routine today because you have, and there's great books on disruption or interruption,
Mhm.
or just like saying, uh, I just have to do it differently.
Or traveling. If you go to a different place, then it gets you out of that routine and you can be open to some new ideas. I think that's one of the reasons that people decline so much. They retire or whatever, and they stop moving and they stop meeting new people and they stop getting new media, whatever. They stop learning the technology, and then they just, I mean, even if they're physically alive, they're just not engaging with the world
Right.
anymore.
Exactly. Right. So if like, if you're a person who's just like, I need to play by the rules and the rules will work, and they're not, then obviously you're not actually playing by the rules. Like, because you're playing by your impression of the rules that you see incorrectly.
You can hit your head against the wall a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. This actually reminds me, when I was a kid, we got a Disney recipe book.
Hmm.
And it was really fun. I have no idea how we got it or where we got it, but my mom got it, and this is like in the later 80s, early 90s. And I think it was something like Donald Duck's vanilla shake. And it said something like,
This is high school Travis making milkshakes for the Disney cookbook. I love it.
but it said, um, I think it was something like milk and banana and vanilla.
Mm.
So you're supposed to pour vanilla in. And I thought, okay, I could try this. So I put in the milk and a banana and vanilla, and it tasted horrible.
Really? That sounds like it could work.
Well, that's what, like, I kept thinking, like, it seems like it could work. But it was the vanilla, like the vanilla was actually bitter. It
You put too much?
I that's what I don't know. Like it was that was the question is, there was something wrong with the vanilla because as soon as like the banana and the milk blended tasted fine, but with the vanilla, it made it taste bitter. And I was like,
I mean, if you taste vanilla, it's gross. You can't put in too much vanilla.
I know. Well, that was the ultimate reality, right? Is that even though sometimes following the recipe doesn't mean you're following the recipe. Like we don't know the context of the very first recipe that was put in there. Like somebody must have had those recipes tested before they actually tried them, right? Because they like there's going to be kids all over the world. So the question was is once I learned how to cook, then you can start to appreciate that the recipe isn't as important as like the taste or the
The
texture or
principles.
the viscosity, the way it looks. Yeah, because like at your altitude it might change something.
I know.
the
Ah,
at your humidity level it might change something. Like if you're in the desert or you're in the swamp or East Coast, right?
I've
So
had cooking troubles ever since I left.
so
Get
I
a
think
different oven.
But I think what was interesting is as I learned to actually cook, because somebody said, "Can you describe salt? Like, what does salt taste like? Can you can you
Mhm.
can you tell me what salt tastes like?"
No, it's hard to describe that. Maybe impossible.
But that's the thing is once you cook, it isn't. It's savory. That's it. Like sugar is,
Savory?
yeah, that's it. Sugar is sweet, salt is savory.
Okay, but how does somebody know what that abstract thing translates to as far as taste? Like that word represents savory because we know what salt tastes like.
No, but it is savory. Like that's it. Like if you put it in your mouth, it is not sweet. It is savory, right? If you put too much in,
Okay.
then it might be something else. But if you want your food to be different, like if you
Mhm.
want like if you want your food to be savory, you
Mm.
add salt, right? You don't
Okay,
like
sure.
if you want ginger, like then that means you're getting kind of a warm heat. Like ginger is probably hard to describe, but it actually is like heat. It's a different kind of heat than cinnamon, but cinnamon's also heat. Or
Oh man, using words to describe taste is difficult.
yeah. So, but the difference was is as soon as I kind of invested in cooking, then I had the freedom to be creative with cooking.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with like manifestation. Like you like when I read the billionaire on the what is that one? The
The
homeless
Millionaire
to
Next Door?
no no homeless to billionaire.
Oh, I read that too. I got it off your list.
Yeah. So the guy starts off just calling BS on manifestation, right? But he says, I just want to start, I would like a coffee today. And he got a coffee that day. Well, it's the exact same thing when you're cooking, right? Like you don't just say, like, I want to make like I just want to make something. Like you do have to kind of at least have your attention towards making the thing. But you're also when you say I want a pancake, you are also saying in your head, like what the pancake is like. Like if you pour a pancake and it's just completely flat, you're probably like, I didn't want that pancake. Like I want like a big fluffy pancake. Like,
Right. So it is important for you to expand once you get pancakes. It's important for you to try some things and look at things and I don't know, the ads or the shows or whatever, see new things and say, I'd like to try that. And because you can't be making new ideas and new processes if you just stick with what you know.
Right.
You have to manifest things that you have to conceptualize it first.
Right. Well, and for example, like once you realize there's a pancake, which is like the traditional, like, some milk, some egg, some baking powder, maybe some baking soda, some sugar, oil, you have a pancake. But then you could say, I would like um I would like to explore this pancake. So you start researching pancakes, right? And that's like researching ways,
Buttermilk.
yeah, ways to make, like, that's ways to make money, because exactly like a buttermilk pancake will be different than just a regular milk pancake. Or a yogurt pancake is different.
Blueberry.
Yeah, blueberry, or with, like, I make pancakes with yogurt often instead of like blueberry, I mean with milk or buttermilk. But then my daughter likes gluten-free pancakes. So you have to figure out how to get a gluten-free pancake to rise. So once you're now interested and you can study, you can play around, then it's surprising how you get inspiration, because now you have all these data pieces that are kind of floating around you that you can borrow from. And as you borrow from those data pieces and you experiment, then you start to have inspiration and connectivity around the exploration, right? This is why Einstein or Edison had 1,000 light bulbs that were not light bulbs until the final one. Like,
Thank goodness for Edison. How many of us would have stuck with that problem so long?
right, but he definitely had some kind of kinetic energy around the data points that he had that
He knew
say
it could work.
exactly. Even with Einstein and the idea that light is matter. I mean, what a really interesting thing. But he says that you can actually bend light. And so he kept exploring and exploring and exploring until he got the right experiment that actually showed that light is bendable, like light is matter. It is not just it's more than just um a thing that shows up in our environment that produces illumination, but it actually is a matter that can be bent.
So Einstein said, I'm not smart, I just stick with the problem longer. And that's the principle, is that his focus on that particular area over a long period of time and gathering all the information and sticking with it, just like Edison, that's what led to some really big discoveries, because some of us just go here and there and learn things surface. But if somebody gets so specific, all those subject matter experts can learn a lot just by continuing to research something over time.
Yeah. Well, and I think like Napoleon Hill mentioned in Think and Grow Rich, oftentimes we are that close, like we're very, very, very close to the manifestation of the thing. It's almost like you just have to step into it. Like you have to kind of concede to it. Like you have to relax and just allow the thing to sometimes happen. And you're like, well, there it is. You know what I mean?
That's almost like when you're falling asleep or you wake up in the night or something like that, where you're not actively thinking, but your mind is relaxed. And then you say, oh, I see how all that stuff fits together, because I'm not actively working on it. I'm just sitting with it. Or
Well, and what you described is what Deepak Chopra calls the gap, is that you have to step away from the gap, because the gap is the space where stuff is solved. And as soon as you're not thinking about a thing, then your mind drifts into the gap and then you get the inspiration. Like just
like in
like
the shower.
yeah, like as
All
soon as you
these
stop.
people learn things in the shower.
Yeah, well, it's the idea that, like I was trying really hard to remember a person's name, and then as soon as I stopped thinking about the person's name, it showed up, right? I mean,
Mhm.
but it's also that way that the fact that it showed up meant that you were still in fact paying attention to it. You were still in fact aware of trying to solve that problem, but by releasing your focus on that problem and stepping away from the gap, then all of a sudden you're like, you could be pulled back into the gap and it comes out. I think it's fun. I think, but I was talking to somebody the other day, and we've been talking about this for almost 3 months. How to achieve a thing, and the person still hasn't done it. And I said, what we need to do is just stop and go like, we've been talking about this for 3 months almost. So what is the problem? Because like you haven't done it one time in 3 months. So if you haven't done it one time in 3 months, the thing that we were working on, what's happening? Like,
We're never getting there.
yeah, because I said it's not about how big, like this thing could be achieved very smallly, like, but you haven't done it one time in 3 months. So what is happening with you? You know, like what it's not like it's bad. It's just saying you're communicating something that despite the fact that you're busy around the achieving of the thing,
There's some resistance.
right, it hasn't happened in 3 months. So what does that mean for you, right? Because in my mind, I've set some goals where I'll say, well, I did Atomic Habits, and in Atomic Habits, one of the habits I wanted to achieve was I wanted to make money every day. So I gave myself a break eventually on Saturdays and Sundays just because I realized my brain would not engage on Saturdays and Sundays. It was kind of like I'm not apparently supposed to make money on Saturday and Sunday. It doesn't mean I couldn't revisit that, but I just recognized my habits did not track that way. But I paid attention to making money every single day, and I did, for a year. So,
And that's very impressive. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to develop that.
correct. But I also knew it wasn't an option to not do it. So because it wasn't an option to not do it, I attended to that goal. So I was like saying that was like the first thing I usually achieved in the day was I made money and then I did the other things.
And what made it not an option? Just your own personal conviction that you would make money that day?
Correct. Yeah, just that was my first priority was that I needed to be, I needed to be responsible for myself, to my family, to my obligations, to the people that I was, that I just couldn't make that discretionary.
You were accountable to yourself.
Correct. Yeah. So it just wasn't discretionary. It just had to happen because um I needed to go buy bakery goods. I needed to go I needed to go help the local market. I needed to go, like I wanted to spend money. So if I wanted to spend money, then I also needed to make money.
That's how I started my business too. I was like, this is lots of fun stuff that I'm buying. And I was like, well, if I want to buy stuff, I have to sell it because that gives me money to buy more fun stuff. That actually was very effective. I was like, I can't go shopping unless I sell this stuff. And then I sold it and I bought more stuff. It was good.
Yeah. So and that is the Deepak Chopra idea of you participate in the system and then you get more money.
It was super fun.
Yeah. So I recognize that there's layers to this, like you could say, well, I want to participate in a luxury market. Well, then you have to obviously upgrade. Like, I mean, I have not necessarily and I know that Deepak Chopra talks about our lives are luxury. Like we should try to be in luxury. We should try to focus on luxury.
Be the Shark Tank people.
Yeah, but I also recognize I don't necessarily care about super luxury. Like I don't need super luxury. I like comfy. I like cozy. I like,
I like comfy too. I don't want to have to worry about the microscopic scratch in the luxury car. I just want to be able to drive into the parking lot and park and go do my thing.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I can't buy like I have a Toyota Sienna, so it's not like it's a bad car, right? Like
I like my Sienna a lot.
Yeah, so I realized that me having a luxury minivan doesn't equate to something like me having like a Lamborghini, like I can't obviously equate it to something. Like I don't know where I would drive it. I don't know why I would use it. I don't, but there's times that I'm like, I could probably buy an upscaler, a better, SUV because I like to go, off-road camping or hiking more or whatever, but I still find that I haven't necessarily needed that because I'm able to, like for me, since I like national parks, most of them are fairly paved, they're fairly good. And then you walk off the road, like you go and you go into the wild on your feet, right? Like
so you have a luxury Travis to take you around places.
Yeah, but I also recognize there's a lot of people who wouldn't go to a national park, like that's somewhat of a luxury, they don't want to spend to enter, they don't want to spend to go. And Like I like to go to the gift shops. I like to get the t-shirts. I like to get postcards and stickers and, little, walking stick pins and that is the way I'm expressing my enjoyment, and so I recognize I make that happen. Like I find enjoyment in making that happen.
What does your shirt say?
This is from Life is Good by no, it's the brand Life is Good.
The
And
Grinch's health.
yeah, this is the mental health clinic, and it's but I can't read the whole thing. It doesn't, like, I have to take off my sweater. It's
Okay. Okay. I noticed the word Grinch and you just talked about how you like to buy a t-shirt. So I thought it might be a funny saying.
it is a funny saying because the Grinch is holding the little dog and it's the mental health clinic, so it's the idea
It's
that
an emotional support animal.
yeah, well, and he had to go through his own dilemma in order as the Grinch, right?
It's the Grinch on the other side.
Correct. So I also, like, for example, I go to Life is Good to buy their shirts. They are more expensive shirts, but they also they specifically say they donate to nonprofits and charities. So I recognize I'm buying a shirt that I think is fun, but I'm also really donating to their cause, right? So I think that that's part of also manifesting is that you have to see the thing differently. Like you don't say that shirt's just expensive. I don't want to. I don't want the shirt.
Mhm.
But if they're asking for $25 for a donation to something else, I might have paid that. It doesn't really matter about
You
the
get the
price of
shirt as the bonus for the donation.
Exactly. So I think that's sometimes what we have to do when you're manifesting is some of the obstacles are a distraction because you're like, well, I don't necessarily want that. Well, then give it away. Do something else with it. Like it doesn't matter. Do you want to get to the other side?
You've used up all of your choices, Travis. Now you can't choose anymore. You've done all of your choosing for today or this week or next month. No, you have lots of options all the time.
Exactly. And I think that's what, like for a person to go 3 months without achieving the goal one time, it just it's a clear manifestation that there's
You
something
don't want to do it. Just look at it. You don't want to. If you wanted to, you would do it.
Yeah.
Actually, that kind of happened. I mentioned that about another employment opportunity I had that pays a lot, but I just was so much more interested in working on the nonprofit and the business things that finally I just accepted that I didn't want to do that thing. Like you can get money doing other things
Yeah.
that you like to do.
Yep. I totally agree with that. Like I know that I've had like forever this belief that I don't have to work where I don't want to work. Like if I am miserable where I'm working, I do not have to work there.
It's
And
been fun.
yeah, but sometimes people that's a scarcity thing, right? Like sometimes it's scarcity, people are like, well, but where would I go? Like what would I do? And um I had to have the courage quite a few times just to quit the job. I'm like, if you think I need to work here and you're going to bully me or you're going to treat me poorly or you're going to create a hostile work environment, I'm going to try and love myself enough to leave. And
Loving yourself enough to leave is a really good life skill.
one time it freaked my wife out because she was pregnant and we were in a rental and we were like, there was a lot of things going on. And then I
Did
just
you
came out
talk to her about it?
not before I quit.
Oh, geez. I bet that was not popular.
No, she was very stressed because she was at that time not working. And but what was interesting about it is when the owners of the business found out I quit, they wanted to reconcile. They were like, "Well, what happened?" I said, "Well, you had a guy who was kind of pressing on me. He's kind of said his way was the highway." And I said, "Yeah, that's not going to work."
Okay, bye.
Yeah. And they said, "Well, I think we could work around that." And so they brought me back in, and I
Did you
was
get a
able.
pay raise?
I actually don't remember that part, but I remember that wasn't the problem as much as this thing that was being forced upon me was the problem.
But it ended up being better than before you left. So
Correct.
leaving was the right way to get around whatever that obstacle was.
Correct. It corrected the problem because I was willing to show you're not going to pin me down under scarcity.
And how long did it take to resolve that?
Like a week.
A week. Oh, I'm sure she felt much more happy about it when you had a job a week later.
Yeah, because they also were carrying our insurance for the babies. So
Yes.
but I think
that's how that works still.
yeah, but I do think that if something is holding us hostage, like if something is like it's a desperation thing, like that's where Yoda says, right? You have to be able to lose everything you fear to lose, or you're afraid to lose, whatever the Yoda thing is, right? But
I love Yoda.
if you know what you're doing is right, or you're living inconsistent with what you know is right, you have to be able to do something else to get your focus in alignment, right? Or you have to prove to your, because I know one time I was so dialed in, like I couldn't believe how dialed in I was. Like I knew things were happening and it was amazing they would happen. Like even despite information I was being told, I knew I was right. Like it was amazing how like internally connected to this thing I was, and things just kept happening. And
It's not like that now?
not always. Yeah, I mean, when I started Steward Growth, it did. Like, I mean, I definitely had that alignment with Steward Growth, but I also recognize that as Steward Growth has progressed, I haven't. Sometimes having that alignment is just it's intimidating to the people who I work with because they're not in the same thing, like they're not in the same juice, and so you have to. Sometimes you just kind of I back off so you can just let the water run a little bit.
Mhm.
But what happened in this other situation was it required another person to agree with that vision. And so despite like how dialed I was to it, I settled and didn't go with it. And the thing was I literally I felt like the lights turned out for years. Like it wasn't like the lights just went out. It was like they went like dark out. And I was like, because I was so aware of betraying myself by not staying in my vision. And I think that that's the consequence of like, if you don't follow the vision and stay in it and stay connected and stay loyal, your system knows that you won't follow through. And so it like won't feed you, like it won't connect you. So I think that I think it's super.
There's a price.
Yeah. So I've learned like even if somebody's around me who's starting to distract me or deter me, I just say this isn't your decision. It's okay. Like however you feel about this, it's not up to you. and I don't try to like be abrasive or shut them down, but I just say um I'm going to do the following things. I'm going to own the consequences for doing the following things.
Mhm.
If I don't know what your concern with that would be, I'm going to do these things. And it's been really tough because even, you know, sometimes even with my wife, she's kind of had to learn. Um, I'm in my own process. And so I do try to set enough boundaries around my process that it's not like she doesn't have to own my mistakes and stuff, but
Does she have the same freedom to play that way?
absolutely. I recognize that that's the rule, right? If I have, if
Not everybody does.
yeah, yeah. Well, I recognize that if I'm not going to let her talk to me about how I spend money because of how I'm manifesting with it, I can't talk to her about how she spends money. You know, like
Yes.
I have
At
to be able
least
to,
there's a parity to it.
yeah. So I appreciate that my wife is not like reckless or like she's definitely not like a wanton spender that just is like whatever, like he spent some money, so I'm gonna go spend twice that or 5 times that or 10 times that because like
We can afford it. I'm just going to buy all the things.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, but like my wife will say, you know, your daughter wants to go to Guatemala on this like externship. I'm like, good. I just say yes because again, it's part of my, I can afford it. And I also recognize that um, you can't say no and still keep the juice flowing, right? It's like saying no is a problem. So even though like some people might say something that is they really want, like I've had to say that is a good thing for you to do. I currently don't have the resources to figure that out at the moment,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't have a problem with you exploring that as a thing. Like go
There's
ahead and
more than one way to get it.
yeah, I'm like go ahead and manifest that thing. Like it doesn't it's not something I'm saying no to, but I also don't feel like I currently have the resources and I recognize that I'm not connected to that thing. Like I'm not trying to make that thing happen.
Well, I keep encouraging my daughter to focus on her Disney cruise. She's 10, and I'm like, hey, let's go on a Disney cruise. You visualize it over here and let's get it going.
Well, but that's something you could definitely do, right? Like you know enough people and
Yes, we're going on a Disney cruise. It's in the process.
well, that's actually not a tremendously hard thing to make manifest happen, is it?
Well, no. I mean, I've already manifested some really fun trips. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's on my board. I look at it. So,
yeah, so you just have to say like, I guess when do I want to go on the cruise? And then do it.
I'll send you photos.
No, I'm mine has been going to Sweden and to Denmark because those are my historical places with my family. And
I
I
learned
realized,
this sign for Danish because of your family history story. Because I found that I'm super Danish and I've really connected with people who have that kind of heritage. It's super fun. Debbie is also Danish.
okay,
So this is a ship. It's a ship. Anyway, I know
well,
some ASL, but I asked people specifically so that I could flash the Danish sign.
there you go. But I recognize that I'm getting to the point with my Danish thing that I probably just need to pick a date, you know? Like I haven't necessarily done it. So I'm like, well, I probably need to just, if it's that important to me, I probably should just do it.
Who's going?
I have no idea, but I know that I can go. So
Awesome. I think my mom went, actually. I don't think I asked her very much about that trip. I should probably find out more about what they did. She went with her sister.
yeah. Well, I know that I know that I've had some like international traveling just concerns just because it seems like the world is kind of crazy. But I travel
Yes.
around the United States fairly openly. And so I think I probably I need to have more faith in that and not like let that be an obstacle.
Well, if you're talking about really dangerous places to go, Denmark probably is not on that list.
I agree. Or Sweden. It's not generally. Yeah,
Probably safe to book that trip.
I agree. But it still is like I've never flown across the big pond. You know, I've never flown across the
You
Atlantic.
haven't?
I've flown to across the Pacific to like Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji.
Yeah, New Zealand was awesome.
Yeah, but I have to like get up to say, okay, and I can. Well, I could tell you this: I did not appreciate when you got on a plane to Australia that from Los Angeles to Auckland, which is where we landed, was like 13 hours inside a plane.
A long flight.
It was.
Did you sleep? Do you not sleep?
I don't sleep very well like that.
Oh, well, we were so excited about all the new release movies that we just stay up all night and watched all the movies.
Yeah, so I can openly say that that was daunting to be in an airplane for 13 hours. Like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is insane.
Mm. Okay.
But I think to London and Paris and like, I think the quickest flights are like 9 hours, right? Aren't they like 9 hours to?
I'm not up on my how many hours is it anymore, but it's high time you got over there.
I know. Well,
It
I
is
would.
fun over there, and I know you like the food and the stuff. You would love it.
Well, have you been to Europe then?
Oh yeah.
Well, you don't remember how long the plane ride was?
Well, it was in the first time was in 1997, and the second time was in 2004. So it's been a minute.
Well, it was. You're just gonna say it was long?
New York, I think New York to Tel Aviv was about that long, 13 hours, something like that. I don't remember how long New York to England is. I keep my brain space for really important things, and I didn't consider that important enough to remember, but it was very long. I also
Right.
flew to Peru and I flew to Taiwan since then, so those were also quite long.
Well, isn't
Part of it.
I heard that like from San Francisco to Japan is 9 hours. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Well, to like Taiwan, wasn't that like kind of close? Like, would that be like 10 hours? You don't know.
Unfortunately, the the hours to the places isn't a thing that I have recently been connected with.
That's my budgeting thing. I try to budget it. All right, so I guess we're a little bit distracted here at the end. But I think that when we talk about manifesting, and I think when we talk about focus, I sometimes it's the data points like travel for me that make it possible because I'm budgeting resources to achieve the thing. Um, but I truly wish, for anybody out there listening to this and or who's connecting to the idea of manifesting a goal, I can tell you with complete personal certainty, as soon as you figure it out, like as soon as it starts connecting and you're able to manifest things, you will be beyond excited. Like it is so fun to have the faith and the courage in yourself and your connection with um your higher power or the universe or just whatever makes things show up for you. When you start to know that you can get things done and they show up, it is one of the most unbelievable powers that you could give yourself.
That happened to me with my Taiwan trip. I was doing feng shui in my living room in the travel area, and I released a lot of stuff. And then I was like, "Ooh, look at this trip. It's so exciting. I totally want to go." And it was way fun, and everything fell into place. The money fell into place, the people fell into place. When I travel, I don't calculate the hours because I'm there for several weeks or several months. So getting there, I'm not taking away a third of my trip with the travel. I want to spend enough time to get into the culture and the land and the people and all those things. But you're right. When it's connected, it feels really good.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest powers you could give yourself is to actually believe in your ability to provide what you want and need. Totally agree. Well, I think this has been an awesome hour, and I hope that those of you who could connect and are connecting on YouTube have a good time. Yep. We'll see you.
Happy holidays. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you. We'll see you, America.
Bye.